I'm going to be sharing my own experiences, both as an HR director, where I had to lay people off because it was part of my job, and as an employee, where I was asked to leave on multiple occasions. And what I'm going to share is my favorite strategies and tactics that have helped me and are tried and tested coming from my own career. Keep watching. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonal, Bahl, former HR director and career strategist with over 20 years of international corporate experience. And in this channel, what we share is my favorite strategies to help you to get that dream role, that promotion, and lead a richer, happier, and more purposeful life. If this is what you're about, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon so you know when I go live or when I publish a brand new video. Now listen, I think most people would agree with me when I say when it comes to our career, there's one of the lowest points in our career is when we are asked to leave, not by choice, when we are asked to leave. And as an HR person, I can tell you it is a horrible experience. And I don't say this to get pity from you, but if you have ever asked someone to leave, it is a really, really awful experience and it stays with you. You feel the guilt, you go to bed, you feel the guilt the next day. And as someone who has also lost her own position on more than one occasion because of corporate restructuring, cost cutting, and being last in, first out, LIFO, right? What to do? It happens. It is awful to suddenly be told, completely blindsided, that the role that you enjoy, or you're doing it, you're getting some money at the end of it, that no longer is the case, and you don't have to come to office anymore. Let's agree on the fact that it truly sucks. This topic can get long, heavy, and very murky. So we're going to do our best today to keep it practical, simple strategies and tactics. We're going to start with the first one. The first one I need you to remember is this is not your fault. All of this is happening, the layoff, all the repercussions from it, the negativity is not your fault. Now, what you have been told is there is a recession, there's COVID, the demand for our products and services has gone down, which is why we can't keep up with fixed costs like salary, etc., which is why we're doing a layoff. This is the official communication that goes out.
So at the time of recording this video, so many companies in the tech sector have done layoffs. Look at all these names: Meta, Twitter, Snap, Lyft, Stripe, Microsoft. Amazon is going to be doing a big one at the time of this recording, and who knows what else, right? So how are these decisions made? Generally speaking, it is done to reduce costs. I know that sounds simple. Obviously it is. There are different ways of doing it. The redundancy is the first reason for those costs, saying we have a lot of multiple departments who are kind of doing the same thing and we don't need anymore. And the other reason could be someone else can do it cheaper. So we're going to relocate these positions to different cities or different countries, and we don't need these people in these high-paying jobs anymore. Now, how is the decision made? Who gets to stay and who gets to leave? This is super tricky. I'm simplifying it now, but usually there are two ways of determining. The first one is LIFO, like I said, last in, first out. So the most recent people, right? The senior people are more expensive to lay off, and maybe, they have different things to contribute. It's very subjective, but LIFO is very objective. The second way of determining who gets to stay and who gets to leave is performance-based. Now, this is highly subjective, where, you may not even be told, but it could be that certain people's performance may not be up to mark, and it is decided that these positions or these people are going to be leaving. And, I want now to talk about this second part because it's a lot more subjective.
You're going to look around and you're going to see your friends and you'll be like, but my friend still has the job. How come they get to keep their job and I don't? What's going on? Is it something I did? Is it something I said? And I am telling you, even if you thinking, or even if your boss or your management tells you it is performance related, let me tell you, it is not your fault. I know it sounds like a big statement. We don't know each other, but trust me, this is the situation. And why do I say this? Over the course of my career, as I mentioned, I have had to let dozens of people go, and I didn't just let them go and said bye. Kept in touch with them, followed their career on LinkedIn, saw what was going on. And not only did they find other work, which was interesting, I would even argue that they did even better than what they were doing when they were in my company, the company that I used to work in, right? So, what is this telling you? They got out of the environment where it didn't work out. It was like a fit problem. It was a circle, square, and they weren't fitting together. It wasn't that the square is better than the circle, absolutely not. And in the new environment, they were blossoming, they were thriving, right? So what is that telling you? It wasn't a performance issue, it was a fit issue, which even at the time when it happens, it stings. I get that. But down the road, this is something that's really important to keep in mind, because if you don't keep this in mind, and if you take this extremely personally, it's going to dissuade you. It's going to result in slower acceleration in terms of moving on, and that is going to result in problem number 2, which is what we're going to just talk about. I just want to add a little disclaimer to this first point, and the exception to this is if there is issues related to misconduct, integrity. That is out of scope in this point. So I would definitely want to add this and say this is not your fault. And you also have to keep in mind that sometimes maybe the boss didn't like you, or there was something going on under the radar. You didn't really know what was going on, and it was just bizarre, or culture mismatch. You don't really know your boss's boss, so it's really like outside your control, and there is no point ruminating over this one. It's not personal, even though it feels very personal. It's not so much about you, and it just wasn't meant to be. The next thing I'm going to say is you need to take the time to recover from this experience. For some people, it can feel like PTSD, right? And the trauma from being laid off, and especially the way it's done. Sometimes it's not even about what happened, but how it happened, right? I have seen this happen with my own clients, where they wake up in the middle of the night, with a cold sweat, and at the same time, people are saying, "Okay, that's enough." There's a wallowing in self-pity going on. It's not helping you at all. It's not healthy. Move on. Do something else. Start looking at positions. Apply. Go to LinkedIn. Fix your resume. Hire a coach, etc. I say, please don't do that. Not so quickly, at least, right? You got to embrace the bad. You got to embrace the negativity, the feelings. You got to drown your sorrows a little bit with Netflix, with chocolate, with ice cream. Do it. I am that person that says the more you run away from it, the more it's going to come back and hurt you later, right? And if you don't do this, and if you don't vent with your friends, and you just take it all out, and how angry you are and how sad you are, if you don't do this, and if you go too soon applying to roles, and during interviews, at some point or the other, it's going to come out, and it might just be this explosion. So it's like, you're bad mouthing the manager or the company or the culture or something, and nobody likes to hear that. So you don't want to be this person. Take your time. However, I want to be careful here, and I want to give this disclaimer. Take the time you need to get back on the horse. Don't get back on the horse too soon, because you might fall badly. Having said that, I'm not sure what 100% ready looks like. It's different for everyone. If you're going to wait till you're 100% ready, you might wait for a very long time, right? And you don't want to wait that long before you start moving on. So, get back on the horse when you're, above 50, 60, 70% ready. Get back on the horse. You're going to get some positive, news and signals from the, friends, from the market, from recruiters, and that's going to help you to keep moving. But make sure that the ruminating results in some action taking as well. The third thing I want you to keep in mind is we need to start talking about it. There is a huge stigma associated to being laid off. It's not unheard of. Being laid off is very common. I will even say being laid off is actually common all around the world, but not talking about it. There is a huge stigma and shame associated culturally in many parts of the world. When it comes to being laid off, and don't tell anyone, and you're unemployed, don't say it. I want you to say this instead so they don't feel bad for you or they don't feel sorry for you. The thing is, we already said it's not your fault, right? So the more we talk about it, the more the shame will go away. And the more we talk to people, we'll get different perspective, different ideas. It's like one of those things where you start talking and others like, hey, me too, this happened to me. Oh, this happened to you. And this happened to you. And what did you, how was your experience? And you learn from those people. Instead, you keep this to yourself. One is the loneliest number, right? So the only way to destigmatize it, little by little, I know you're thinking it's only me. What difference will it make? You're talking about it, you're giving implicit permission to others around you to approach you as well. And it is so much easier when you're going through a hard time to go through it with others who are like minded, who've been through what you're going through, and not completely go it alone. Next, I think I would say take this opportunity when you've been laid off to learn more about yourself and to have a higher level of emotional intelligence and self awareness. Go back and learn from the experiences, learn from accomplishments that you had when you were in those roles, learn from the low points. How was your reaction sometimes to crises? How did you handle them? Even rewind back to the time when you were hired for that role and you were interviewing with people. Were there any red flags? Was it something that the boss said or the team members, when you looked around when you were new and you could tell something wasn't quite right? This is a great time to learn so that when the time comes again and you're interviewing and you're talking to other people, you don't repeat the same experience. Because the last thing you want is to go from the frying pan to the fire. Nobody likes that. So this is a great opportunity. Learn about yourself, learn about how strong you are, your resilience, what are you good at, what do you need to work on. And for doing something like this, working with a coach is actually a really good idea. And I'm not saying this because I'm a coach per se, but in general, right? The idea is that they are supposed to show you the mirror and they are supposed to show you like how do you harness your own potential. It's very hard to do that because you don't necessarily see that mirror, because people see you from the outside. You're inside, if you know what I mean. So that perspective and that objectivity comes from the outside. So even if you have a dear and trusted friend or a mentor, it's a great opportunity to learn about yourself. You are your own best cheerleader and supporter. Next, I would highly say when you learn about yourself and you also understand about things you like and things you don't like, work that makes you excited and work that gets you drained, I would recommend immediately update your LinkedIn profile and focus on a few elements that get seen a lot by recruiters. There's particularly the top 1/3 part of your LinkedIn profile where research has shown that recruiters spend the most amount of time. So you want to make sure you have a very nice, smiling, attractive profile picture. If you don't have one, I highly recommend either you can hire a photographer, or if you don't have the budget for a photographer, our phones are fantastic quality. So take a selfie with, looking at it, smiling, happy, good lighting, have a nice banner in the background as well. So this is something that very easily you can do. You don't have to hire a designer. Go to canva.com. So many free templates available there. And also look at the headline and the about section. The headline should be a combination of keywords which recruiters, hiring managers are looking for when they're looking for someone like you. So you want to have those splashed across in the headline, including some skills, including some accomplishment. And in the about section, you want to make it about what you've done and what you can do for the person who's reading, right? Imagine you're talking to the ideal recruiter, the ideal hiring manager. So it is about you, but it's not necessarily for you. It is for the readers. You want to have that about section, which immediately has a hook and talks about why you do what you do, right? It's a little bit more informal than a standard resume. So this will also help you to get noticed. You also want to make sure your skills are updated because the skills have code at the back. So they also help you to, go higher in your rankings, as well as testimonials. Start collecting testimonials. When you've been laid off, people are going to say it takes full time. Looking for a job is a full-time job. Yes, Yes and no. It doesn't necessarily mean you're working 9 to 6, 9 to 7. No, you will have a few more hours in the day than you used to when you were working full time. Take advantage of that. And one of the things you can do by taking advantage of that is reaching out to people, networking, asking people for recommendations. Networking is a big word. Oh my gosh, it gets thrown around like crazy. Take advantage of your warm and your cold network. People you already know, people you know well. Reach out to them. You don't say you're looking for a job. Look for opportunities where you get to know people. Ask for an introduction. You're looking at a role. Want to talk about the role. What would be your favorite piece of advice for someone like me who's in a career transition today? Approach it with that. And if you were my client, I would tell you to look at 5 to 10 conversations every single week. You want faster results? You got to put in the work. But this networking will help you so much in the long term, not just for this transition period that you find yourself in today. Next, I will say, please pay attention to what you consume. And I specifically mean advice. Pay attention to who's giving you this advice and what is their intention. So when it comes to career advice, speak with people who've had a career, who've had ups and downs in their career. It just makes a lot of sense, right? But no, in reality, we'll talk to anyone and everyone. We will talk to our parents, we'll talk to our friends. Of course, they're lovely people and they have they have the best interest. They have our best interest at heart, but they're not necessarily in the right position to give you advice. So, would I take marriage advice from someone who's never been married or in a long term relationship? Would I take parenting advice from someone who's never had children? Similarly, be very careful where you take your career advice from. I can't stress this enough. Finally, the last thing I'm going to say is the most beautiful thing. You have this time, it will never come back. I know people say this a lot, especially when children are small. Enjoy this age, they're so sweet, they grow up so fast. Yeah, but when you're in that moment, you're not thinking this way, right? It does go fast. But really, this period when you're between jobs is a very specific thing where you're, going through your journey. Some days are lovely, some days are awful, and you're basically just, doing your best to, stay alive, so to speak. So one thing you can do is volunteer your time with missions, with purpose-driven organizations who have no budget, and you want to help them. I would be more strategic about it, and I would look at places where you can volunteer your time, your skills, particularly in areas where you yourself need a little bit of training, because volunteering is free training in a way, and it is so wonderful. It makes you feel good. You learn about certain skills that you didn't have. You feel a sense of purpose, and it gives you something called a helper's high. There's research done at the University of Berkeley that talks about helper's high, which is lovely, where you feel like you've done something good. So volunteering also allows you to convert those feelings of hopelessness into helpfulness, taking the spotlight away from you and woe is me and feeling sorry for yourself towards someone else who needs more help. And then it also makes you realize, oh gosh, I'm actually quite privileged and I'm quite grateful for the life I have. Yes, times are hard, but someone else, needs a bit more help. So I'm quite lucky that way. So I hope this video helps you to convert that feeling of hopelessness when you've just been laid off. Trust me, I've been there. Trust me, there's light at the end of the tunnel. The length of the tunnel varies, but you just got to keep moving forward, step by step, even baby steps. Forward is forward. You got this. Thank you so much for watching. And if you watched this till the very end, I want you to write in the comments, I want you to write hopeful. Just write the word hopeful. Till next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, keep supercharging. You got this.